one of the first self-made black millionaires, Mary Ellen Pleasant. What's up, everybody? It's your girl B Octavia, and I am back with another video. Welcome to my channel, and today we will resume with what I should have did on Black History Month, okay? So I did say I was gonna do bigger and better next year, but honestly, next year is too far to honor some of the greats, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to stick with street legends. I didn't want to just strictly stick with people who have had illegal professions, if you will. So I decided to switch it up, but keep it within the same realm and talk about one of the first self-made black millionaires. If you do not know who I am, my name is B Octavia. I am from Washington, D.C., and I am 25, a mother of an almost 5-year-old. And over here, I like to talk about various things, street legends, public figures as a whole. Very dynamic and very diverse, I would like to say. But jumping right into this video, we will be discussing Mary Ellen Pleasant. In the 1800s, Mary Ellen Pleasant was a name known to many. Her story is that of triumph and resilience despite challenges and obstacles she faced as not only a black woman, but a free black woman. Born in 1814, in the thick of health crises without proper knowledge, education, or advancements in research, famine, which is world hunger, widespread poverty, and or economic catastrophe. Famine also led to job shortages, rising taxes, crop failure, and most importantly, a lot of people were seeking personal freedom, whether that be from slavery or political and or religious persecution. Some historians claim that Miss Pleasant was born into slavery on a Georgia plantation. On the other hand, in an autobiography made by Miss Pleasant, she stated that she was born free in Philadelphia. And of course, as time goes on, people will believe what they want to believe about that. But what I can say for sure is that no matter if she was born into slavery and then became free, she lived most of her life as a free woman. To be born in it doesn't mean that you will always remain in it. At a very young age, Mary Ellen Pleasant was unfortunately separated from her parents. She was sent to work as a domestic servant in Massachusetts for a white family. Child labor, in my opinion, was a huge issue in the 18th century, going from that time to the 1920s, 1930s, and so on and so forth. First with slavery, children, as far as what it looked like to me, 5 years old or maybe even younger. Black children had to pull their weight in this world on a plantation, picking cotton or whatever they were asked to do. And then comes the Great Depression. Sweatshops, hustling on street corners. It was a various, set of races doing that during that time, and that were forced to do so. Of course, your parents and whoever may say, you have to pull your weight, but it's just so unhealthy and sad to know that, there was always a responsibility on a small child, even though they didn't ask to be here. Mary Pleasant arrived in Massachusetts around a fairly good time. Towards the end of the 18th century, slavery became illegal in Massachusetts. While there, she learned to read and write, and also she learned how to work in a shop. It is unclear who taught her or if she taught herself, but it definitely was a blessing to be placed in Massachusetts as a young black woman. From Massachusetts, Miss Pleasant moved to San Francisco, California in 1852. At this time, she was 38 years old, and she moved there during the gold rush. From reading up on Mary Ellen Pleasant, I can say that her movements through the states almost seemed to be destined for her. Arriving in California in 1852 was very strategic on Miss Pleasant's part because during that time, California entered the Union as a free, non-slavery state. And that happened in 1850. So she arrived there only 2 years after this blessing for a lot of people, including herself. Once there, she continued working as a domestic servant and also as a chef to wealthy businessmen. From the businessmen, both wealthy and white, Mary acted as a sponge, picking up on valuable investing tips while listening in on these businessmen's conversations. Some historians actually believe that Mary Ellen's overall intent of working as a domestic servant was a cover specifically to listen in on investment advice and juicy gossip. Mary Ellen Pleasant was either self-taught how to read and write or someone who loved and cared for her helped her in her youth. But she honestly said in an autobiography written by her that she had never had a formal education and she wondered what she would become with it. But in my opinion, very early on, Mary was gifted in making wise decisions on who to work for, what assets she could bring to the people that she did work for, and whether these men knew it or not, they subconsciously mentored or dropped knowledge bombs around someone that they probably thought wouldn't even understand what they were saying. From information, business advice, and all that was gained knowledge-wise, Mary put a plan in play to hopefully start gaining even more income than just working as a chef and as a domestic servant to wealthy businessmen. In that line of work, she was earning roughly $500 a month. In her plan, she invested most of what she earned into real estate and other opportunities when overhearing these businessmen talk. These opportunities also included her investing in gold and silver mines. Mary Ellen religiously stuck to her plan of investing in what she knew would be fruitful. And by the 1860s, she began to create businesses of her own. Starting small, she bought quite a few local businesses, mainly focusing on laundries, what we know now as laundromats. A few laundromats turned into a whole prosperous chain of laundry businesses. And also within her properties, she had a series of boarding houses. While investing all over California, Mary Ellen often disguised herself as a servant. Even during and after her profits grew drastically. She did this in order to not stand out, get hassled, and to be more easily overlooked. You talking about a wholeheartedly and all the way around inspiring person? It's Mary Ellen Pleasant. Mary Ellen's good luck and fortune continued as she elevated as a business mogul. She made lifelong business partners and close alliances with people that were equally as valuable. A bank clerk named Thomas Bell had a hand in helping Miss Pleasant pursue some of her investments. The wise investments that Mr. Bell helped Miss Pleasant with, along with him being able to be on documentation as a white male versus having a black woman on documentation, it looked a lot better back in the day, sadly. But with the smart investments that they made as a duo, made both of them very wealthy. Another smart but sad fact about this is that Mary put a lot of her investments in Mr. Bell's name, as I told you guys before, so that she wouldn't be hassled or discriminated against for being a black woman. In this dynamic, it shows how much trust Mary Ellen put into Mr. Bell, and it also shows the respect that Mr. Bell had for Miss Pleasant to not take advantage of her or steal her money. And in fact, this is the only way that a business partnership can have longevity, is trust and respect. Thomas Bell and Mrs. Pleasant ended up buying shares of laundromats, restaurants, and even a Wells Fargo bank together. Their estimated combined fortune as a result of their investments was more than $30 million at the time of their prime. More than $30 million, excuse me. And that estimated fortune would be around $1 billion. I'm rounding all the way up. Okay, I would round to 900 million, but let's just go up. Let's up the score, okay? But I'll give y'all a rough estimate of that, what it would be worth today. $864 million, around those numbers. So, right before moving from Massachusetts to San Fran in 1852, Mary Ellen married a mixed race fella named John James Pleasant in the late 1840s. They moved to San Fran to avoid trouble and or backlash for their abolitionist work. How it goes, according to certain historians, they believe Pleasant played a key role in helping finance John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry in Virginia. This raid was an unsuccessful attempt revolt by black slaves and white abolitionists in 1859. This raid by John Brown lasted for 2 days and unfortunately resulted in the execution of John Brown and the killing of several of his men. He found 21 strong and fearless men to fight beside him, which they did. And at the end of day 2, when it was all said and done, 10 of his men were killed, including 2 of his sons. John Brown was wounded in the raid that he led, but he was still alive. He was arrested and tried by the state of Virginia for treason and murder. John was found guilty on November the 2nd, 1859. He was sent to the gallows and executed December 2nd, 1859 at the age of 59 years old. Mary Ellen Pleasant also helped the abolitionist movement by putting money into the hands of those on the front end. And in the background, Mary was traveling to different parts of Virginia where the word needed to be spread. She also gave shelter to many slaves that were in hiding and fugitive slaves. Infamously known about Mary Ellen is she let fugitive slave Archie Lee stay with her while he was on the run. Taking care of others is something that she did the best, but the balance she had was taking care of her family and herself as well. Mary built a 30-room mansion in the heart of San Francisco. The way that I see it is her even building a big, beautiful house in that area at that time set a standard and made that area what it is today. Her house was worth roughly $100,000 at the time that she built it. And today, her house is worth around $2.4 million. I think that it may have been her entrepreneurial and real estate mind, because where she built the house is now a very wealthy area of San Francisco. As big as the house was, Pleasant, her family, and Thomas Bell and his family lived at the 30-room mansion. Sadly, as a result of moving Thomas and his family in the eyes of society at the time, the slander towards Mary Ellen began. rumors began to swirl that she was Mr. Bell's mistress. People were also trying to paint her as a sketchy businesswoman. It was certain business people, whether they be males or females, white or black, that had boarding houses that they turned into brothels. But because Mary Ellen had boarding houses, that started to be a narrative within society and how society viewed her. People would say that she owned brothels instead of boarding houses. And also, probably one of the most offensive things that a person can say is that she participated in the practice of voodoo. Through Mary Ellen's life and journey, she was married twice. I believe she was married when she was younger. It is no word about who that was and how that ended. But I mean, like, marriage wasn't what it is today. You know, it is a union between people. And, you know, I believe that people respected marriage a lot more back in the day, but it wasn't as documented. You know what I'm saying? You could move on from a person, or your husband could walk away from you and get married to a whole nother person, because it wasn't like legally binding as it is today. And although she was married twice, she did not have any children. It was said that her husband that she moved to San Fran with left her an inheritance after he passed on. This inheritance, plus the different streams of income that she had coming in already as a result of investing in real estate, in the silver mines and gold mines, she put a lot of those funds into helping her work in transporting slaves to freedom in northern states and in Canada. That work was a part of the Underground Railroad. If you are a part of my generation, and even if you are a little bit older, one thing that we can agree on is that the only person that we knew of, even that we would know of up until y'all see this video, that was heavily involved in the Underground Railroad is Harriet Tubman. And we should talk more and discuss more about her life and her legacy, yes. But we do need to know the different parts of the Underground Railroad and the different figures that made it as strong as it was. I think that when talking about how strong Black people were, it would give us some inspiration on how to act towards each other now. Another thing that I feel like we can see from this is it was people of mixed races as well that had parts in the abolishment movement. It was people of white descent and people who were Caucasian that did fight on the front lines for us in our names because of slavery and how we were being treated. You know, because they felt so strongly about ending slavery. And I think that that would give some people of my race, you know, less ignorance towards Caucasian and mixed people. You know, they're not all bad people. And some of their descendants are warriors and fought a fight that wasn't theirs. I feel like that is powerful. You know, yes, it was white people that was walking in the march with Martin Luther King, but it's one thing to march and it's another thing to fight. It's another thing to share blood and shed blood because we have. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes a very strong and unbiased person to say, hey, this is wrong. This should end and it should have never started. So I salute John Brown and his image and his vision of what he wanted done. I hope that, you know, as many men that got hurt from his side, shit, I hope y'all got them even worse. Because, you know, to feel so strongly and to take a stand, a powerful stand that is set in stone in history, you know, it will never be forgotten by me, You know, it will never be forgotten by the people that it ended up helping. Mary also helped many African American people find jobs and housing. As the times changed, Mary Ellen adapted and publicly took on civil rights, suing for racial discrimination on companies that were still blatantly racist. Her work in desegregation deemed her the mother of civil rights in San Francisco, California. Mary Ellen had many decades of fortune, success, and strides in civil rights, desegregation, being a powerful force in the abolishment of slavery movement, and so much more before it sadly came to an end and left her old and in poverty. The decline for Miss Mary Ellen started after her business partner Thomas Bell passed away in 1892. Since a lot of their investments were in Mr. Bell's name, his widow sued Miss Pleasant for control of their shared multi-million-dollar fortune. In the end, when you trust one person and they trust you and everything is mutual, right? Everything is fine and dandy between you and that person. And y'all are lifelong business partners, right? In a dynamic like this, it's sad. It's so sad to say that. It doesn't mean that the family of that person that you trust, that you respect and respects you back, it doesn't mean that that person's family has the same pure heart and intentions. Within this legal battle, like I said, his widow sued Mary Ellen Pleasant for control of their fortune, which she had no hand in creating, right? And another fact about it is, you remember when I told you that Thomas Bell and his family moved into that 30-room mansion? Thomas Bell's wife is a part of that family. So not only did she profit off of her husband's intelligence and her husband's fortune while he was alive, she lived in the house of his business partner who also made that fortune possible for years upon years and probably decades in that house, right? Well, it pains me to say that Mary Ellen Pleasant lost that legal battle mostly because her finances were so closely intact with Mr. Bell's finances. It was very difficult for Miss Pleasant to prove what was hers and only hers. On top of that, with constant rumors and slanders on Miss Pleasant's name and reputation, it didn't make her look so good in court. And it also didn't help her case at all. As a result of Mary Ellen Pleasant losing this legal battle, she lost most of her fortune and was evicted from the mansion that she built from the ground up. She showed the court receipts proving that the house was her design, and she showed records of her paying for the construction, but she was still evicted from that mansion. From that point on, Mary Ellen Pleasant lived the rest of her life out, staying with friends of hers, until she died in 1904. In 1904, she was 90 years old. So, to end this video off and my final thoughts, I'm just going to lay it all out. This is how God works. And this is the main thing that I see. She lived most of her life out. She may have had 30 or so years working very, very hard as a domestic servant or what have you, whatever these wealthy white men needed. And she never complained in that. But she also had a plan. And she stuck to that plan until she was worth roughly at least 15 million of that was her. That's how we doing stuff now, right? She was living good. She provided for thousands of people, including the people that was closest to her. And I mean, this is a prime example of don't bite the hand that feeds you. You know, it's sad to say that Thomas Bell's wife got very greedy and took advantage that Miss Pleasant was a black woman, and she probably knew that the chances of her winning against Miss Bell, which was a white woman, would be scarce. You know what I'm saying? It's slim to none that that would happen at that time. I think that her civil rights work and all of the work that she was doing was getting around and was making her a target. So it was easy for them to just push her to the side, you know? And that's sad. But this is how God works. She spent a lot of her life, it's fair to say, well loved, well protected. She helped thousands and thousands of people, including us today, from facing the same discrimination that she faced. And a lot of articles and things said she was left in poverty. But to still have people that care about you even when you lose it all, it doesn't mean that you're in poverty, you know. To feel loved even after going broke is a blessing. I want y'all to know that. Another thing is, she didn't spend too many years of her life staying with people and doing things like that. She didn't spend a lot of her life in poverty. When it was all said and done, and a lot, her fortune was taken from her. What they thought would make her suffer didn't. And she still got to live out a very long life until the age of 90 years old. And in today's time, a lot of us don't even make it to that. It makes me angry that what was a smart decision for Mary Ellen Pleasant to do as far as putting Thomas Bell as the name on the investment, it was very smart. I see it, especially for the time. You know, what was very smart, it bit her in the rear end, and she didn't deserve that. It's a lot of people that are in business that are very sketchy and don't have good intentions for customers and consumers. But for a person with a pure heart to go through that, you know, it means karma on the ones that did it to her. It means karma on Miss Bell. You know what I'm saying? And I wish that Mary Ellen Pleasant at least had one child, and then that child would have a child, and there would be a legacy, because I guarantee you in today's time, they would be getting that money. They would be getting what was rightfully owed to them. You know, it's very important when you are building an empire to at least have one child. Just one. You don't got to complicate it and have 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't have to. Have one. Have that one, have one. And it'll keep going on and so forth, because I would have loved to see that for them. I would have loved to see them get what Mary Ellen should have never had took from her. I wish that there was some type of way that that would be possible. Who knows? Because I would never forget this. I would want to see her house. I would want to see what people, of course, have done to it, you know, and what it looks like today. But I would want to see that. I would want to see her house, and I would want to see that it becomes a historic situation that nobody can intrude in things. She built that from the ground up. And I feel like it shouldn't be touched. It shouldn't be altered, you know. So I will look into that. But until then, thank you so much for watching this. I will never forget Mary Ellen's story. It's very inspirational. Even if we talking about the very end, it's very inspirational now, you know, because we can say that now business is so advanced that we better make sure our paperwork is right. You know, especially as a black woman or a black man, we may still get taken advantage of because of that, because we are young, because they think we're stupid, anything, you know. And it all stems down to discrimination and looking down on us because we black, you know, not thinking much of us because we black, and trying to take what we built, and we smarter than that. But I do salute Mary Ellen, because in those times, what other choice did she have? When somebody says, oh, they didn't have a choice and it's something criminal based, I'm like, you had a choice and you chose wrong. But in this case, what other choice did she have? Y'all let me know in the comments below. You know, we can't say what we would do now, but what other choice did she have? It's your girl, B. Octavia. I salute Mary Ellen in the hand she had in the anti-slavery movement, in the hand she had in the Underground Railroad, in the hand she had and the work she put into the civil rights movement. Rest in peace to her, and salute.